Are you a woman of faith who is struggling to navigate your current season of life? Do you feel like life is just happening to you instead of for you? My name is Jill Pack. I'm a certified life coach and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want you to know that no matter your season or circumstance, it is possible to create a more joyful life. And I would love to show you how. Are you ready? Let's go. Happy Tuesday, my friends. Welcome to the Seasons of Joy podcast. Now, before I begin, I wanted to remind you about my Seasons of Joy community. This is a small group coaching community that I just recently created. Last month, we discussed spring cleaning dirty pain. And in May, the topic is spring season of abundance. And in June, it's season of fun. Now, the first call for May is going to be this Thursday, May 5th at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's an hour-and-a-half workshop where I will be speaking about scarcity versus abundance, and there will be some coaching as well. And then we have a second group call at the end of the month. This is a Q&A call, and there will also be some coaching. So if you want to learn more about this Seasons of Joy community or my Seasons of Joy one-on-one coaching program, I've included links to those in the show notes. So this is episode number 8, titled Season of Discovery. I love the idea of discovery. When we are beginning our journey of self-awareness and creating a life we love, it requires some discovery. And I wanted to illustrate the first part of this using something from Tanya Dalton's book, The Joy of Missing Out. In this book, she talks about marble jar moments. And you know what a marble jar is, right? It's a big jar that teachers use and have used forever. I've even used it myself when I'm working with children. And basically, every time the children do something good, you drop a marble in the jar. And when the jar fills up, the class earns a reward of some kind. But half of the fun is actually watching the jar fill up. The kids get excited when they can watch and hear the marble rattle in the jar. Well, Tanya goes on to talk about how she believed in the power of the marble jar because it reinforces good work, right? We all want to be recognized for our efforts. We want people to notice the good we've done, and we want to get credit for it. We also all have an invisible marble jar as adults, and we carry this jar around with us, wishing, hoping, begging, and trying to fill it. For instance, you get up and you work out, marble jar. Cleaned the house, marble jar. Cooked a healthy dinner, marble jar. And so our day continues with marbles clinking and filling our jars. But there is a problem with these imaginary jars when something doesn't go quite right. Say we forget to set an alarm and then we get up late, or we forget a key ingredient for a recipe we're making at the grocery store. We miss a deadline at work, and we don't just say, oops, no marble in the jar. We actually feel defeated and discouraged, and we loosen that grip that we have on that jar, and we allow it to drop out of our hands and crash to the floor. There's marble and glass everywhere. Now, it doesn't matter that the jar was almost full, and it doesn't matter that we had been doing really well all day long. And instead of picking up these perfectly good marbles that we've earned, we decide that we need to just work harder and hustle more to earn more marbles. Then we think we have to do more and be more, and then we fill our lives so full in an effort to fill our jars. We get so overwhelmed, and we actually lose count of all the marbles we actually have. We believe that our value and our worth come from our efforts to fill our jars. We get caught up in this busyness of life, and pretty soon we've lost sight of our values and our priorities. We all have marble jar moments all the time, which create and reinforce our beliefs about ourselves, others, the world, and God. When I'm working with a client, we work on discovering this discovering, and some of those stories that come up in those marble jar moments, right? Identifying faults and limiting beliefs about their lives, about themselves, identifying and discovering stories that are holding them back from creating an extraordinary life. Stories that tell them that they don't do enough or they aren't enough. Stories that tell them that things outside of themselves are what will make them happy. Stories that tell them that other people need to change and then life will be good. Stories that have high standards and aren't realistic. We all have stories like these, and they feel so true. Now, if we don't learn how to manage our minds, we end up starring as the victim in our story instead of the hero of our story. Oprah Winfrey has said, quote, "Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe," unquote. The thoughts we think create the life we live and who we will become. I want to say here that nothing is wrong with you because you have negative thoughts or stories or these marble jar moments. It's perfectly normal. The human brain is wired for what scientists call negative bias. This wiring kept our ancestors safe from known and unknown dangers from the beginning of time. This is something that we have just continued to carry with us, and it isn't a problem. We just need to understand our brain and practice rewriting the stories that are holding us back from creating a more joyful life. One of the easiest ways to spot a story that isn't realistic and that's keeping us stuck is to pay attention to the absolutes. When we use words like always, never, should, need to, have to, those absolutes are a red flag that whatever we're thinking, whatever that story is not true. It's not realistic. For instance, here are a few that maybe you've had before. A good mom never yells at her kids. A good friend always replies to a text right away. A good wife should keep the house clean. A good person needs to say yes to serving on the PTA. A healthy person is never overweight. A good person has to put others first. These stories seem innocent enough, but they are sneaky lies that our brains offer us, which actually create limiting beliefs that hold us back. Stories like these demand that we spend our time and efforts in a way that don't help us create the life we want. We get caught up in following these imaginary rules and expectations because we think we're supposed to. One of the stories that I told myself for a long time was that I needed to say yes to things people asked me to do. That's what good people do. They serve on committees, they do the PTA, they do service projects, they do church callings, they babysit for their friends and neighbors, you name it. I said yes to it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I believe service or doing things for others is wrong. Far from that. But what I am saying is most of my yeses came from obligation, expectations, and people pleasing. I would say yes to anything and everything and then not have time for anything else. I lost sight of my priorities and my values. This left me feeling overwhelmed and resentful, which also led to feelings of guilt and shame. I had to begin to shift what I believed it meant to be a good person. Pretending isn't the answer. I had to begin to rewrite my stories, setting realistic expectations for myself. Now, I'm not perfect at this yet, but I'm practicing. And my story now is good people do the best they can by saying yes and no. Sometimes our stories aren't as sneaky as the ones I shared above. They are blunt and cruel, such as, you are a terrible person. You're not a good friend. You're fat. You aren't enough. You shouldn't even try. Why do we do this to ourselves? I'm going to tell you that you will never shame yourself into becoming better. Think about, how do we treat a child who is struggling? We love them, we listen to them, we don't judge them, we encourage them. What if we could actually treat ourselves the same way? In John Acuff's book, Soundtracks, he shares 4 questions that we can ask ourselves when we have a negative story going on about ourselves, or if we're overthinking something. We have a belief that's holding us back. Number 1, is it true? Number 2, is it helpful? Number 3, is it kind? And number 4, would you say it to your younger self? I love these questions. They're such a good reminder. I actually wrote them out and I have them on my computer, because the answer to those questions will help us find and uncover and discover stories that aren't serving us. And I would also like to add to the last one about saying it to our younger selves. I was recently at a mastermind where Rachel Hart, a life coach, shared something that just really has resonated with me. She invited us all to post a picture of our younger selves somewhere that we see regularly. And then, are the stories that we are telling ourselves about ourselves something we would say to that younger self? My guess is that you probably wouldn't say them to anyone else, especially a child. I want you to ask yourself, is it time for you to look at your stories? Is it time to discover what your stories are? Are you ready to tell a different story? What if it's possible that you are actually the hero of your own story? I'm going to share with you 6 things that will help you as you begin to write new stories for yourself and your life. So first, number 1, notice the negative thoughts and stories. Pay attention to the narration of your life without judgment. You're just going to notice them, pay attention to them without judgment. Number 2, remember that you are a human being with a human brain. Your brain is doing its job just as it was designed to keep you safe. So these thoughts and things that come up are not a problem. There's nothing wrong with you. Number 3, start to question your story. Again, the 4 questions. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? Would you say it to younger you? That will give you a clue if it's time to write a different story. Number 4, give equal airtime to what is amazing about you. We are all amazing, and we had absolutely nothing to do with it. Our God, our Creator, made us. We came to earth with value and worth already. We don't have to earn it. What if you could spend as much time thinking about the things that are amazing about you? Number 5, there is power in the word and. Often we live in a world of either or. We are either a good person or a bad person. We're either a healthy person or an unhealthy person, a good mom or a terrible mom. The truth is we are human. And this is the best news ever, because it opens us up to and. We are wonderful and a mess. We are good and bad. We can embrace this duality, and then we can quiet those shameful stories. The more we own that we have weaknesses and strengths, we can stop holding ourselves back with unrealistic expectations. We can invite grace into our lives. And number 6, find a story that you can begin practicing in place of that old, outdated story that you're ready to let go of, such as a good person serves the best they can by saying yes and no. I am loving myself by taking care of my body. A good friend loves her friends the best she can. A good mom loves her family the best she can. I am showing up as the person I want to be. I can show up for others by showing up for myself. Now, these 6 suggestions can help you as you begin to reframe and rewrite your stories, your marble jar moments, and create a more joyful life. If these suggestions don't seem to help you and you seem to be struggling to break free of these stories, I invite you to consider reaching out for some professional help, whether it be a counselor or a coach. But ultimately, remember that you are not alone, and it is possible to break free of those stories. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, I would love it if you would share it with your friends and family and leave me a review. I want to get this out to as many people as I can. If you would like to learn more about what life coaching is, please feel free to schedule a free discovery call with me where we can work through something that's causing you a problem. Just go to seasons-coaching.com. You can also learn more about my Seasons of Joy coaching program and my Seasons of Joy community there too. Have a joyful week, and I'll see you next time.